Hello and welcome back to this AWS course. So in fact, welcome to the start of section 3, where section 2 was all about the front end and deploying a website. This section 3 will be all about the back end and deploying an API server. And to help us with that, we're going to use this wonderful Express.js software, which, as you can see here, it says is a minimalist web server framework for Node.js. And we can see over here a complete example JavaScript program for how to use Express. Just starting at the bottom, we can see that it's listening on port, in fact port 3000, and it's listening for HTTP requests. And when it receives one, this one on this path, the root path, it calls this function, and this function can return data. In fact, it returns hello world. And we can listen on multiple paths, so I can say if we receive an HTTP request on this path, call this function and return this data. And if it's on this path, then call this function and return this data, and so on. So what I thought we'd do to start with is we just copy this JavaScript program and we'd get it up and running in our monorepo. The monorepo is exactly how we left it at the end of section 2. So whereas we use this apps folder to hold front-end applications, I'm going to have a new services folder to have back-end applications, and I'm going to call the first one the API server. Eventually we'll have multiple servers, and I'll probably rename this, but this will make it clear what the purpose of this is. And then in here I'll create a source code folder, and then in here I'll create a file app.js, JS because it's JavaScript, and I'll paste this code in. Now clearly this is going to need a package.json because it's importing an Express library, so let's just go and implement that. So here's package.json, and I'll copy the content in. And as you can see, it's very simple. I've given it a name up here, services API. I've got a single script item, dev, which is going to call Node and pass to it our source code, and a single dependency, which is this Express library that is imported over here. Now I need to import the library with pnpm install, but before I do, I need to register this package.json, or at least its folder, in the workspace. So I will add that in. I'll say you need to look in services/API, and then I can run pnpm install. And now with that I can run the application. So let's just do pnpm -c for change directory, services/API run dev, and we can see it's listening on port 3000. It's printing out this message here. So in order to send it an HTTP message, I'm just going to use Chrome for now. So I'll go to a new page and I'll literally just do localhost 3000. And you can see it's immediately to return hello world from this line of code here. So to port this to TypeScript is pretty simple. We need to rename the file to a TS file. And this will alert the IDE that this is a TypeScript file, so you can see immediately we get these squigglies, and we need to change the package.json. Let's just put that over there. And instead of using Node now, I'm going to call TSX against this file, against the TypeScript file, and I'm going to need to add that in as a dev dependency. So I'll do that now. And because this is a TypeScript file, we're going to use what's called ECMAScript or ES module import syntax. So to use that, I'm going to say this is of type module, and I'm going to replace this here with the modern ES import syntax. I'll say import Express from Express. I can get rid of that line of code. Now we can see, even though I've done all of that, I'm still getting these TypeScript errors, and the reason is because the Express library is a JavaScript library and it contains no TypeScript annotations at all, so this is just a whole bunch of JavaScript functions. But help is at hand. If I hover over here, we can see there's a clue over here. It's saying it wants this library adding in to dev dependencies. So let's just go and do that. Just add this in here and then run pnpm install again. And we'll see that if I reload the window, that fixes just about everything. There's one small thing here, which is it's saying this rect parameter isn't being used, but if I name it starting with an underscore, that fixes that. And now that's all we need to do to actually run the program as a TypeScript program. So I'll literally run the same command. Dev will run tsx, which will run app.ts. So let's watch that. And again, it's printed out this message. It's listening on port 3000. And let's just get rid of this and do it all again. Localhost 3000. And again, we've got this data returned. So that's all good. We have our working TypeScript Express server. So with that, I will bring this lesson to a close and I'll see you in the next.